Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PTV World's special transmission. I'm Maryam and joining me is Shehzad Raza. We are going to be discussing about the cross-border terrorism, which of course poses a serious threat to Pakistan's sovereignty and of course regional stability as well. We will be talking about in today's program India's financing in Pakistan and supporting groups like TTP and BLA. Meanwhile, we will also be discussing about the cross-border terrorism that is emanating from Afghan soil. How does it complicates the situation in Pakistan? We will be talking about all these issues and what needs to be done when we talk about the challenges for Pakistan's internal security.
Rightly pointed out, Maryam, as we know, viewers, that we live in a very difficult neighborhood. Our eastern border is not safe, and now our western border, where lawlessness prevails in Afghanistan, especially after the fall of Kabul and took over by the Taliban regime. And Pakistan always tries to maintain friendly relationship with its neighbors. But unfortunately, especially India, they never lost any opportunity to destabilize and weaken Pakistan. And now it's waging war through its proxies in Afghanistan, and regrettably that in Afghanistan there is a lawlessness, and Taliban regime, they are really not cooperating with Pakistan or entertaining our request that they should hand over these TTP elements to Pakistan who are involved in heinous crimes in our territory. Even though that Taliban promised to the world, and especially under Doha Agreement, that they would not, allow any such non-state actor to use their territory. But now we can see that these non-state actors, these Khawarij, they are safely sitting over there planning and executing attacks inside Afghanistan, and they have full support, as Maryam pointed out, by India and the RAW. We are going to discuss this, one of the most important aspects of terrorism in this our campaign and series. And now I'm joining in the studio by General Raza Muhammad Khan Saab. He's a defense analyst and former president of the National Defense University. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Dr. Zafar Nawaz Jaspal, need no introduction, but thank you very much, Jaspal sir, for joining us as well. And in a short while, we will be joining by Humayun Khan, another very...
and we're joined online by Faisal Raza Khan, who is our colleague and anchor PTV World and correspondent for PTV World as well. Faisal, of course, Shehzad, why don't you
Faisal, my question is this, Faisal, that since we know that Afghanistan and India, they are basically conspiring with each other against Pakistan, what is exactly our strategy and policy to deal with these threats? And official version, I would like to ask you.
Shehzad, thank you very much for having me at this very important program. Obviously, we have to understand that India has a history of state sponsoring terrorism when it comes to, and it was right from the beginning in 1947, and just in 80s and 90s, it has sponsored most of the spies in Pakistan to be planted here and to have a sabotage and espionage activities, the terrorism, the bombings and all that. And soon after 9/11, we have seen that it was more intense in a situation. And when Modi regime came in India, its Hindutva policy and the Khand Bharat mantra has actually intensified whole of the gambit of the state sponsoring terrorism. And we have seen that they have systematically and pre-planned, they have targeted Pakistan, not only the security apparatus of Pakistan, but also Pakistan's economy and investments. Along with that, the financial system, that we have seen how FATF and all those...
How are we dealing with this threat, Faisal?
Education, health, the fabric, the cultural fabric, youth, and the through the social media and all that, and which they have.
Faisal, there is a problem in your voice, then we'll get back to you.
Unfortunately, we are facing a technical difficulty at the moment. We'll be coming back to you, but General Saab, coming to you, when we talk about India, of course, Pakistan has provided time and again evidences to international community as well. What do you think of dossiers that Pakistan has provided, especially when we talk about the security situation within Pakistan in the past few years?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think today Pakistan is facing multiple challenges to its national security. And we are actually fighting wars on four fronts. Raza made a mention of the threats from the east and then the threats from the west. In addition to that, we have internal security problems from terrorists. And the fourth very serious challenge is political polarization and political instability in Pakistan. And I think what the government, the armed forces, and the people of Pakistan desire is that all these fronts, all these challenges need to be quickly, collectively, and amicably resolved using all elements of national power. Counter-terrorism is not about what the armed forces or the security forces can do alone. It is a combined effort.
Right. We will be talking about, General Saab, about the counter-terrorism efforts, but when we talk about these evidences that Pakistan has provided not only to India but to international community as well, what do you make of the intelligence reports that Pakistan intelligence has provided, especially when we talk about training of BLA terrorists and other such groups?
So I was coming, to that, and I think we have prepared elaborate dossiers of what India is doing inside Pakistan and what is happening from Afghanistan inside Pakistan. And I think all these dossiers have been provided, I think, to the UN Security Council, to all our friendly countries, to the OIC, directly or indirectly to the members of the P5. Unfortunately, nothing has come out of that. And therefore, I think what we need to see is to have a relook at our response. And our response actually has to be in 2 or 3 domains. One is the defensive domain, which comprises the National Action Plan, Provincial Action Plan, etc., etc. And the second component is the component of deterrence, which is actually missing. And I think we can talk more about it, once you go forward, and we will see how we can improve our responses, at the national level, at the provincial level, and at all other levels.
All right. Jaspal Saab, but in this anarchic world where there's no order, how and why and should there be any space of accepting this evidence and dossier, as Maryam and General Saab mentioned, against India? Look what Israel is doing, and still every time it's getting scot-free. So what's the use of this evidence and the dossier?
No, there is a use of these evidences. We have to take into account that, yes, the world is now once again moving on state conflicts, and alliances are built. And that's why you find that when you go with these kind of the documentation or highlighting these things, the countries, or especially American-led world, is not paying much attention on our problems, internal problems, which are caused by the external elements, because the interest has been shifted. They are looking at South Asia and through the Delhi perspective, and they are trying to hear what the Delhi is saying. That is one side. Second, yes, you are correct. In a realpolitik, there's no value of what you call it morality and values. This is a reality. And in the international politics, we have 3 tiers. First tier is military interest. So where you have a military interest, no values, no norms. Second is economic. Again, no values, no. Third is okay, we give it. So that's why when we look about these kind of the international institutions and highlighting these things, of course, we are also living in a civilized era. So as a civilized state, we try to highlight it. But if you have to see the state's survival or state's internal security or state's rate, everything is dependent on state's own muscle, whether it's a political, economic, or military
course,
muscle.
and
That's why we are able to defend ourselves from the eastern side, and now it's an era of proxy war.
we will be talking about proxy wars, but since you talked about and alluded to the power and the muscle of the government, to what extent do you think that RAW has been exploiting the grievances of local population in the areas like Balochistan?
Look, this is an important thing. All the developing states, they have their problems or weak of it in the peripheral areas. Unfortunately, our peripheral areas, especially our border with Afghanistan, that is more porous. And in the last 40, 45 years, we didn't recognize this border as a border. We were deliberately ignoring in the beginning, and then the situation make it borderless. But from 2017, the government of Pakistan have started working on it, and we established border as a real border, like we went for wiring or these kind of the things. But basically, there is a problem is that our too much generosity in the last 5 decades towards the Afghans. If you see, I was seeing that the Afghan spiritual leader Habatullah is saying that we have 6 neighbors, only Pakistan has a wire. And I was analyzing once, Afghanistan has only 3 neighbors who supported them, who treated them, little bit by Tajikistan, they have a problem with them. Then Iran, they have a problem with them. The more we supported them, and more bigger problems they have with us, because they think that, and this illegitimate, what you call it in our border area, the economy, war economy, illegitimate economy, that is also cause of these things. Naturally, when you talk about exploitation, I think that we have to put our own house in order. External elements always exploit internal fisheries, internal, you can say, problems. And in our country, we are more polarized. We are polarized on everything. And our media, if you see in the from the 7 to 11 or 12, whatever the prime time in the media, our Urdu media or the private channels, I do not find any debate which is addressing this polarization, that if you see in that debate, the polarization is strengthened because the way the people are participating, political elite is shouting on each other, or you can say questioning each other. That is a polarization which is not good for society.
Right. This polarization is not good for Pakistan. And to talk more about this, we are joined in the studios by Mr. Humayun Khan, who is a senior analyst. Welcome to the program, Humayun Saab. Of course, we are discussing about the cross-border terrorism that is emanating from India and Afghanistan. But despite Taliban's reassurances when they took government, why do you think that there is increased attacks in Pakistan, especially when we talk about in the recent days or in the recent years, and that is damaging Pakistan's economy as well?
No, absolutely, and I guess it's not only in recent years. There's been a resurgence of terrorism in last 3 to 4 years, and particularly from the Afghanistan side. There are like 2 arguments, and a lot of people says that the writ of the current Afghan regime in Afghanistan, the de facto government which is there, despite the fact that they say that they have the complete control and autonomy there, they don't. There are multiple reports in the UN where there are now about 20 to 30 different terrorist organizations, local and transnational, which are operating there. So that's one angle. The other angle is maybe there is not a willingness on their part to act on the reports or information that we have been providing, and not only us, other regional countries and neighbors have been providing them. So I guess it's a combination of they are not willing to take side in this particular war that we are fighting, or they are complacent. So I think I will go with the second form, where we see them complacent. Pakistan has been giving them a lot of evidence of cross-border terrorism from TTP, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, but there has been no much talk, and the argument that we get from their side is this is your problem and you have to deal with it,
Right,
which
but
is very
at the same
unfortunate.
time, Humayun sahab, Pakistan has been dealing with Afghanistan's problem for decades now. We have hosted over 4 million Afghan refugees. How do you think this hosting of and this humanitarian commitment to Afghans of Pakistan comes into the larger security angle or analysis?
I think there are many factors and there are many variables. When it comes to Pakistan, we have been hosting around 4 to 5 million refugees. Even as of now, we have around 2 million illegal Afghan immigrants or refugees who are living here. We have been talking with the international community, with UNHCR and other international bodies in order to send them back and make them legalized, because while they are here, they're not part of the economy, they're part of a lot of culture which is basically helping them and helping against our will to fight this terrorism. Apart from that, I guess Pakistan's role has been acknowledged throughout the world. Since the takeover of Kabul a couple of years ago, Pakistan has been a serious advocate of Afghan people all around the world. I think the largest evacuation which has happened internationally, Pakistan was part of that. We have helped international community, we have helped international organization. Apart from that, we have helped Afghan people who wanted to go out in other countries as well. And we are still doing that at the same time. What we get in return from their side is, this is your problem, you have to deal with it.
Despite all this generosity and the goodwill, Taliban, they are still fighting India's proxy war against Pakistan, apparently so. So exactly what would they achieve in the end?
I guess there's a couple of things which I think, the vision which the current leadership or the de facto government in Afghanistan, probably they're looking at it from a very myopic point of view, and they're thinking that the way they have dealt the world in the past, in the 90s, the world is still the same. Dr. Jaspal and General Sahib has already mentioned, it's a very changed world. There are different alliances, it's a polarized world. And in terms of our strategic location, Pakistan has been very pivotal in South Asia, West Asia, Central Asia connectivity. And now that we are part of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and Belt and Road Initiative, where we are trying to connect the South Asia and Central Asia, I guess Afghan current regime has to take notice of this.
No, but Jail Sahib, instead of having good relation with the immediate neighbor, they are trying to cobble a relationship with the country which is hostile to the entire region. Why is that? I mean, what Taliban regime is thinking at the moment?
Well, I believe that so far we have done everything that we could, at every possible level, to communicate our serious concerns to the interim government of Afghanistan. But they are not changing, and I think they are not likely to change. What is required is to communicate to them very clear incentives and disincentives with the international community, Pakistan, and all other countries, who have stakes in peace and security in Asia, in Pakistan. They need to apply international pressure on them to try and change them. In addition to that, I think in the beginning I made a mention of deterrence. And by deterrence, what I mean is that you look at what happened when India launched an airstrike in Balakot. So what was our response? We responded the very next day, and it was cross-border. Similarly, when Iran launched some missiles in Balochistan, what was our response? It was international.
Of course,
it was cross-border. Just please let me complete.
Yeah.
So I'm coming, to the what's lacking in our strategy, and it is the deterrence that is lacking. And you could see that deterrence was re-established with India and also with Iran. That is not happened, in the case of Afghanistan, unfortunately.
But we made a couple of surgical strikes.
Yeah,
you
no,
remember?
Those surgical strikes are, it was in the past. How far back it was? 2 years back, 3 years back, 4 years back. What has happened after that? Of course, what I'm saying is that these are actually politico-military decisions which have to be taken, and they have to. And as I said, the incentives and disincentives are different. Like they are still, at least on paper, they are one of the most favored nations as far as trade is concerned for Pakistan. That is what the position is. So I think we need to be very firm on this with the people of Afghanistan, the government of Afghanistan,
Okay.
because it is what the people of Pakistan desires. And if that is so, I think the government and the military, given the chance, once the deterrence element comes into our response,
Sure.
the defensive element will take care of it through the national action plans,
Okay.
through the provincial action plans, which actually the provincial action plan. I believe that I think much more needs to be done in that, and it needs to be budgeted, and focus needs to shift to better training
Okay.
of the police and their capability and their capacity.
All right.
Of course, those are very important points when we talk about deterrence. But Faisal, coming to you, Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif also recently stated that operations within Afghan territory may be necessary to safeguard Pakistan's sovereignty. In your opinion, what would such an operation look like, not only for Pakistan's internal situation, but also for the regional dynamics?
Maryam, as you know, that Pakistan is always propagating peace in the region and never ever tried to have unilateral operation anywhere. But when it comes to its own territory, when it's come to sovereignty, when it's come to integrity, and when it's come to its own security, it is necessary that Pakistan has to take such initiatives. And it is up to the security apparatus that how it is going to be planned or when it is going to be initiated. But the thing is that what the threats are from the western border, it is very clear that we have to initiate the pinpointed strikes across the border, because most of the times, despite of the fencing of the border, unfortunately attacks are there. And India is actually exploiting this whole situation. As I have told earlier, that India is systematically targeting each and every aspect of Pakistan's security, its economy, its social fabric, its culture, its art, and all that, and even exploiting the situation which is at the social media platforms, through the gaming platforms, and all that. Even the cryptocurrencies are used to fuel the terrorist organizations, financing and trading and abetting and all that. So the thing is that just recently, I'm just quoting it, that Indian Special Envoy on Afghanistan, JP Singh, he has the second visit to India last month, and he has the meeting with Amir Khan Muttaqi, who is the foreign minister, and the defense minister, Maulvi Muhammad Yaqub Mujahid, and all other people, including the former president Hamid Karzai. You have just think about it, that from Hamid Karzai, then Ashraf Ghani, then the Taliban interim authority, nothing is changed, even intensified. And rightly said by one of the colleagues that there are more than 24 of the terrorist organizations who are operating in Afghanistan. They have took refuge at the Afghan soil, and Afghan interim authority has the allegiance with most of them, except the Daesh or ISLKP or something, ISLK or something like that. So Pakistan's bordering areas. Look at what happened in Kuram. Just we have 5 to 4 days back, and it was a series of this. They have exploited it. The terrorist organizations, including TTP, exploited that situation, intend to create some sort of rift and the religious divide or the sectarian clashes between the two groups of the local groups, and they are exploiting it from the last many years. And
Exactly, Faisal. They are exploiting every opportunity to weaken Pakistan. Jaspal Sahab, Faisal, as Faisal mentioned, and not long ago, Brussels-based organization Disinfo Lab, they published a very detailed investigative report saying that there are more than 250 fake news outlets, dubious think tanks, bogus NGOs working on behalf of the Indian government or being provided financial support by the Indian government, and their target or their purpose is to destabilize Pakistan and malign Pakistan at every international fora. So what have we done to deal with such hybrid war?
I think that what you are referring about these India's policies, one cannot be, you can say, astonished. It's since 1947, India's Akhand Bharat, India's current regime, Hindutva ideology, Prime Minister Modi cannot muster the support of the masses without referring to the Muslim, or you can say presenting the Muslim era as a, you can say, humiliation for the Hindus. Pakistan is the main, their election slogan. But all these things confirm or testifies that what India's design are. So we are aware of it. It's not a new thing for us. Now your point is that how much we are working on it. I think we, in the domain of kinetic, we were very much successful. We built our forces. We are able to deter India. And in 2019, we demonstrated that it's not 1971. We are, and Indians were on the back footing. But on the, in the non-kinetic field or on a, there we are losing. Again, I refer, there are some mistakes or miscalculations. We miscalculated Afghans as a brother. They could be a poor cousin. And especially after 2001, the mistrust between them or us multiplied. Even in 90s, when first time these Taliban, they were not ready to talk with us on the Duran line or settling these issues. And when the Lashkar Jhangvi, Riaz Basra went there and our interior minister asked them and they said, okay, you can hand over us, our opponents. Even in the 90s, they had this attitude. Why we were expecting now a good thing from them? They were, especially, now what they said.
They were the one who signed the Doha Agreement, saying that we would not allow any such non-state
no,
actors.
that is a different point. And secondly, what do you think that Doha Agreement, with whom they were doing? With the Americans. Americans have delegated Afghanistan to Taliban. If somebody thinks that the Western world is not supporting them, they are supporting this de facto government. If every week they are receiving millions and billions in the name of humanitarian aid. They are building the 2 canals with the World Bank support. They are very much this, and that naturally they play the games which the West desire. And at the moment, West desire India must emerge. Though India's first neighborhood policy has transformed into or ended up in a fifth neighborhood policy, and all the neighbors are disturbed with India.
True.
So India is now creating a distant neighbor, but with the support of the West. So why we are shy to say this, that who are supporting them, these Taliban governments, not only Indians, there are other forces as well.
Of course, and talking about other forces, Mr. Humayun, how important have been or how effective in your opinion have been the bilateral and multilateral diplomatic engagements when we talk about terror financing coming from, of course, India to Afghan terrorists and, of course, other anti-state organizations?
No, it's very important, and I will just add few words what Dr. Jaspal earlier was saying. I guess on the diplomatic front, Pakistan has been very proactive, and Pakistan's case has been supported by international community. When we see when the five countries officially supported the Canadian allegation of what the Indians have been trying to kill the Sikh leaders, not only in Canada, but there have been attempts in Qatar, there have been attempts in US, there have been attempts in UK. So the Pakistani stance, which we have been saying for a very long time, that it's a state-sponsored terrorism which is being operated.
So it was a global terrorism network.
And it has been accepted. So if a prime minister of a developed country officially stating that and then also expelling the diplomats of that country, that's a huge statement. And that also support the Pakistani concept, which we have been saying to the rest of the world, that, you know, they're supporting TTP, they're supporting ISIS, they're supporting other international terrorist organization, not only in Afghanistan, but from Afghanistan, inside Pakistan, and to some other countries as well. So that has already been established. So I think there are international reports, there are international organizations. You just mentioned about the EU Disinfo Lab. It was a 15-year operation that they unearthed that thousands of websites have been propagating bad news against, not only against the EU, but also against Pakistan in EU, in UN as well. So there's a continuous pattern of that, despite the fact that, as you were saying earlier, that, you know, not much action has been taken internationally, but I think now the world is changing. What India used to do against Pakistan, they will think 200 times before doing it again this time. So the trend is still there, but
Why
then
so?
there are barriers which is...
Why so?
Because they have been exposed internationally.
Okay.
And now every time you go anywhere, not only outside, but within India, people are talking against the government, which is like an oppressive government, not against Pakistan, but their own minorities as well. So that truth is unveiling all around the world.
So
And I
this,
think
except Canada, I'm talking about the other countries and international important capitals. So this slap on the back of India's hand, it's enough for, forcing India not to do it again?
I think it's...
I mean, the response is not the way it has to
No,
be.
it's not the way we would have loved to see the international community, but you just mentioned yourself already. International relation is based on domestic or international interests. So a lot of countries still have huge economic interest with India. Despite that, there are barriers which are creeping up for India to act in immunity, which it used to do. So that's still there.
Right, and that leads me to my next question, General Saab. Of course, India has repeatedly, time and again, tried to hinder Pakistan's, not only, of course, we have already discussed that how it has attacked key infrastructures in Pakistan, including CPAC, but it has tried hindering hindering a key international funding aid to Pakistan. How do you think Pakistan should be addressing that key challenge when we are talking about global terror network that is being sponsored by Indian government?
Okay, so whether it was through the FATF or whether it is through physical efforts to sabotage the CPEC or all the other mega economic projects in Pakistan, particularly in Balochistan, and I am now referring to the Reko-Dik and other projects. I mean, it is their declared policy that they are going to hurt Pakistan physically, economically, militarily, and this is, I mean, nothing hidden, you know. Unfortunately, you know, when it comes to our response, yes, you know, we are making all efforts, diplomatic, political, psychosocial, but they're not working, unfortunately. And if they are not working, then I referred to, you know, our response earlier. One is, you know, to reestablish deterrence, and we respond in kind to what they are doing to us. I'm sure they understand what I'm saying now, what it means. At the same time, I think there has to be a regional approach to this. Like China now has the biggest stake inside Pakistan. And therefore, Pakistan and China together have to make sure that India cannot hurt our economic interests or destabilize Pakistan or even try to bring political instability in Pakistan, which is actually it is doing. At the same time, there are other countries like the UAE, we have Saudi Arabia and Qatar, even the UAE, who have economic stakes inside Pakistan. So all these countries put together need to apply pressure on India directly and indirectly to desist and resist from what it is doing, change its policy. If that does not work, then as I said earlier, you know, our response is very clear, and it should be you do to them what they are doing to you. But at the same time, let me just...
But what are going to be the long-term implications for regional stability if we take the same road?
Well, you know, India is not bothered about the region itself. We have seen that. It's not even bothered about the global community. They are doing what they want to do, whether it is in the United States, they're hitting, you know, people whom they perceive as terrorists in the United States, in Canada, in Australia, and in every country where they think that their national security is hurt. And same is the case here in Pakistan. And unless, you know, we respond to them, you know, in a determined manner, and unless we respond to them in a manner that it hurts India as their attacks are hurting us, they are not going to back off. Let me very quickly add to that is, you know, what was said about, you know, digital terrorism, which is emanating very clearly from India. India right now has 500,000 cyber warriors with a budget of more than $1 billion.
Really?
Yes, to do whatever they want, to hurt the digital domain and digital defenses, particularly of Pakistan, China, and any other countries whom they think, can threaten India. At the same time, going back to Afghanistan, if you recall, I think it was 1.5 years back that the supreme leader of Afghanistan made a very famous fatwa or edict in which it said that any attacks from Afghanistan soil outside in other countries, including Pakistan, is not jihad. But there is no action on that fatwa.
Exactly.
And I think we need to remind them to take action on that. Safe havens in Afghanistan,
Right.
I think everybody knows. And it is our right, based on the UN resolutions, to
defend
get rid of those safe havens
And to
as soon
defend
as
ourselves.
possible.
Exactly. Jaspal sahab, we were talking about Afghanistan and India. My point is, when Indian government is offering Pakistan or indirectly or directly in the past to have normal economic or business relationship with us, and there are people here in Pakistan as well who give this argument. If you have economic relationship with any country, they give example of China and India, despite their border disputes, they have $100 billion plus trade. So if you have these economic dependencies and the trade, so all these critical issues shall be resolved or would be resolved in future or in due course of time. So is it possible to have an economic relationship with a country which is spreading terrorism in Pakistan and killing innocent people?
First, you have to make
And
up.
might I add post 370 article?
No, we
and
have to be very
post 2019
careful. I'm
situation.
sorry to say I differ with both of you. 370 article we never ever owned. From the very beginning we were against it, and then now we don't have a policy, we start talking about it. When it was included in the Indian Constitution, we didn't. Yes, 35A is important. We have to be very clear. We never go for historical evidences and we start making the analysis. Second point is economic activity. It's 21st century, one of the major, what you can say, trend that strategic competitors compete on the strategic chessboard or platform, but they continue their economic activity. Why? Because economic cooperation is a win-win for both sides. That's why China and India are doing. Especially Chinese are not interested to, you can say, exaggerate the conflict or escalate the conflict. They are very rational. In the context of this, if you see, if interdependency prevent war, then there will be no conflict between the Chinese and the Americans today, which is, with the passage of time, escalating. But yes, if we have a channels of communication with India, like economic channel or the diplomatic channel or other, it is essential between the two nuclear armed states, because there could be any mishap can lead to a disaster. It's not good for India, it's not good for Pakistan. But at the same time, when you say that they are supporting the BLA, TTP, and definitely if you read the Indian side, they are also doing the alleging us. So strategic competitors or rivals do these things. But I do think that my understanding is that if we have an economic, but with the Modi you can't. He's a radicalized, Hindu radicalized. They normally say fundamentalists. Fundamentalists are in, the radicalized fundamentalists are in everywhere. But the problem with him is that the moment he shake hand with Pakistan, he will be losing his political support. And politicians always focus on the constituency rather than, he's not a statesman. If the Vajpayee was a statesman, and that's why he was ready to move ahead, and he's not a statesman, he's not moving, he's a politician. That's why he's losing his own grip. He has only 8 seats, and as a coalition partners are providing him, so he cannot make this. And every month or every year, you can say within a year, 3-4 states elections are taking place.
Right.
These are the realities which we cannot ignore.
Right.
But still, economic cooperation in the 21st century, if there is a possibility, of course, on its terms, conditions are important. It's not just for the sake of economic cooperation we can compromise on our principal stance on Kashmir or on our other issues? No, that is not
Of course,
permitted.
that remains important, but now we are moving towards the conclusion of the program and today's discussion. Humayun Sahab, looking forward, what strategic measures should Pakistan be taking, especially when we talk about threat that is emerging from Afghanistan at this point in time?
I think there are multiple things that we should be doing. General Saab has alluded to that, Dr. Jaspal mentioned about that. I guess there are many fronts on which we have to work proactively. Of course, diplomatic, political, military side, deterrence is something which we have been working on, not as effectively as we should have been, but again, we have loads of issues that we have to deal. There's an economic instability which is there, terrorism is on the rise. So I guess when it comes to Afghanistan, there's something which we have made clear to the world, that despite the fact that there has been hostilities from Afghanistan towards Pakistani side, we have always been very cautious. We do reserve the right to go for hot pursuit and things which are not in our interest or happening from there. But despite that, we look towards the 40 million population of Afghanistan as our brothers and sisters, and we are acting very cautiously. We have been warning the Afghanistan side that, we will eventually act if they don't put their house in order. But I guess Pakistan, as up till now, I think in my opinion, the policy towards Afghanistan when it comes to the military action has been very cautious. And this is a very good approach, because we still believe that, we have been helping this country for the last 30, 40, 50 years, and we will do it future as well. But they now have to act according to what the international norms are. They cannot just simply continue being oblivion about what is happening in their country and on the terrorism emanating from their side or their soil being used against us. So I guess that has to stop eventually.
All right, all right. Lastly, Faisal, to sum up the discussion, I would like to ask you this, really, this case. The foreign policy is really not a static thing. I mean, it keeps on changing depending on the internal and external circumstances. Is there any discussion among the policy makers regarding whether we should initiate a dialogue with India or no?
Unfortunately, I have the answer in no, because uh, might be there could be some sort of a background, or you can say the track to diplomacy going on at different levels, and that always goes on because the channels are always open to have communication between different different aspects. But the thing is that on the diplomatic level, you know that we have a downgraded relations with India, and India has with Pakistan. So we have a deputy head of missions on both sides. Most of the times we are doing some sort of a clerical or administrative work, but not the real-time diplomacy. That is not there right now. But we are exchanging notes. We are having some sort of diplomatic connections as well, and the track 2 is already there. But if we are talking about or sensing some sort of a composite dialogue or having some sort of a state-to-state level dialogue, I think so that is not there, and this is not the time when Pakistan always wants to have peace with its eastern neighbor, but this is not at the cost of Pakistan's security, Pakistan's integrity and sovereignty, because India is uh, openly involved in sponsoring terrorist outfits in Afghanistan, using the third country soil and inflicting terrorism upon Pakistan. Kulbhushan, Sudhir Yadav, and lots of other spies and all that. Those networks are already exposed, and not only Afghanistan, but India is also expecting the Iranian territory also to interfere in Balochistan and inflict pain and anguish regarding the Pakistan-China relations, the CPAC projects, and all that. So it's
Right.
Indian sponsored global terrorism is evident everywhere. We don't need really the evidence, but we have to scale up our diplomatic efforts internationally to expose India, what India is actually doing in Pakistan and in the region and elsewhere.
Right. Thank you very much, Faisal, for your valuable input, and all of our wonderful guests for their input in today's program. Of course, Pakistan has been presenting overwhelming evidences against these cross-border terrorism threats that have been emerging from India for quite some time now, but we have witnessed silence from international community. But still, Pakistan remains steadfast in its commitment. As we move forward, the challenge is clear, but so is our commitment.
On both the borders,
of
Western
course,
and Eastern.
Of course. And that's all from me and Shehzad. Thank you for joining us.